Ready? It is 9 a.m. on Tuesday, May 21st. We'll call the Wright County Board of Commissioners to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. We will begin with this dispensing of the minutes from May 7th, if there's any modifications.
Yeah, I will make a motion to approve last week's minutes.
We have a motion by Commissioner Hewsome.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Potter. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Review of today's agenda. Any modifications, additions to today's agenda?
Mr. Chair, I think there's one mistake that we, item E on the consent agenda should be removed.
Okay, yep, so that one's going to be removed.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if I can speak to that, I believe the intent was to send that to the June 12th committee meeting rather than the one that was scheduled for today.
So 6/12/19, we'll make the modification to the agenda, the consent agenda, that item be changed from 5/21 to 6/12. And we'll just leave it on the consent agenda then.
We need a motion?
Yes, we do need a motion to modify the agenda. A modification and
I'll make a
approval.
motion to modify the agenda.
And approve it.
Yep.
So a motion by Commissioner Dahlleiten and a second by Commissioner Hewsome to modify the agenda with consent agenda item E and the approval of the remainder of the agenda as is. Any other further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Entering into the consent agenda, I'm going to look if any of my fellow colleagues would make a motion to remove the 4 items that are for the hire above 12% to the Personnel Committee.
Mr. Chair, I would like to pull them off.
We have a motion by, is that a motion?
And then, yes, I would like them removed, and then I would make a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Burrell,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Dahlleiten. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That item will just, we can address it at this time. I know my intent was, talking with the administration, that those items are very close to being able to be negotiated out, and at this time, I'd like to defer that decision-making power to administration, and then in light, set a committee of the whole to discuss the 12% issue as a whole.
And Mr. Chair, I appreciate that, and I actually have a little different concern, so you go ahead.
Sure,
I just don't want a word in there.
go ahead if you, were.
Well, it's just, and I'm not on the Personnel Committee, and Derek, you've had this concern a lot of times, but it seems like every time we come up now, it's above 12%, above 12%. And it's one thing if we can't get a qualified candidate to fill a position, we may have to go up. But if we have somebody who is trainable, they're qualified, they meet the qualifications, and they're trainable, and then we just seemed like we're going to somebody who's got more experience just because, for whatever reason, it's easier for, them to fit in or whatever. And I think we're not looking at training people and bringing them up. If they meet the minimum qualifications, and then we should be, and unless, like I said, unless we can't find somebody to fill that position with the minimum qualifications, it's upsetting to me all the time that, and I shouldn't say all the time, but so many times,
Yeah.
we're going over 12%. And now I realize many of these on here are barely over the 12%, but still they're 12%, and is our class and comp going to identify our scale that far off? I don't know. It's just concerning to me that we have these pay scales that are,
Well, I think that's where it comes into the question, maybe as a committee of whole, discussing that and then also discussing what the minimum requirements are for these positions, because that's what a lot of it comes down to then. If you are going to try and get them, people to be at the bottom of that range, you maybe have to have the discussion of what is our minimum requirements.
Exactly. Yeah, there is a difference between minimum requirements for certain positions, and you definitely could bring in someone that hasn't got necessarily experience and that kind of thing for a lot of positions, but some of these key positions, you want a highly qualified person, and you're right, we haven't actually had too many of these this year yet. It's all of a sudden we had 3, in a week, but we haven't had too many this particular year, but.
Every position, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt, but every position that comes, it's a key position. We
Well-
can't, there's none of these positions aren't key positions, it's
And Mr. Chair, I think that, when our class and comp study is done, that probably a lot of these issues will be resolved, but in the meantime, if you're ready for a motion, I would make that motion to defer this to administration and to set up a committee of the whole for further discussion on the 12%.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Hewsome.
Who let admin deal with these ones before us and do a committee of the whole, discuss future ones. I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Hewsome, second by Commissioner Potter, to defer these positions to admin for negotiation, and then to set a committee of the whole to discuss the grander issue as a whole.
Mr. Chair.
Any other further discussion?
I got a comment. The reason for doing this, we have an administrator now, and we've been losing people because the process is taking too long to get through. And when you get down to this point, I believe it's incumbent upon us to have the administration department negotiate these things and get them done instead of another 2 weeks. I mean, I think that's part of why we're losing people. And the paperwork and the extra meetings and staff time involved, I think is just redundant and not really worth the time doing it. Just,
Right.
we're down to these people, let admin negotiate.
It gets expensive in terms of our staff time and recruitment and that kind of thing, too.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So then we won't have a personnel committee this morning?
That's correct.
Yeah, yeah, but we're
The items that
replacing it
were
with a-
planned for this morning
Yeah.
will either be addressed by this item or the other one, the fourth one for today, was the assessors item, which is going to be sent to the June 12th meeting.
And then we'll just be replacing it with a personnel committee of the whole, just to discuss the whole grander issue.
Okay. So when are we going to set the personnel?
That's the next discussion piece. We have a motion, a second. Do you guys want to set the time here before we vote on
Well,
it?
why don't we make sure the motion passes first?
Okay. Any other further
Yes,
discussion?
Chair, I do. I'm okay with the motion, but I want to make sure that administration looks into my concern that we have passed up people that meet the qualifications, but just, we like this person better, so instead of paying X amount of money per year, we're going to go in and go over 12% and pay this person, even though there was somebody that met the qualifications that would be able to do it, whether it be some training. I wasn't involved in the screening process, how it got, apparently we're down to one person on each of these positions, am I right?
Right.
Yeah, and I just want to go back, and I would like you to go back and relook at it and say, the people that got screened out, were they qualified, were they not qualified? And that's, otherwise I'll support the motion.
And I think it would be helpful in this committee of the whole to maybe go through one of these positions and look at the job description and go through the whole application process, so that way maybe it'll make us all a little bit more comfortable with what.
And maybe if Administrator Kelly could do that, is when you're doing this, when you're looking at these that are before us right now, get one that's questionable, even though we're going to let you make the decision, then we can come back and show how wrong you were later. No, I don't want to do that. But get one that's the most controversial, the most questionable, and like the chair said, and then let us go through and see, what the concerns are, what the different
Well, the
variables.
methodology, the
Yeah, the
methodology
methodology.
that you use to determine the candidates for the position.
I think that would help us a lot. Thank you.
Well, and I guess I can speak to one of the positions. I know that we interviewed 9 candidates. 8 of them wanted more than the one that we're asking for here. And I think a challenge for you as well is that we can certainly go and read through and review the criteria on paper, but you won't have the benefit of sitting through the interviews nor will I.
And don't bring that one up then, that's not.
Fair enough.
Okay, thank you.
So any other further discussion to defer these positions to admin and then to set a committee, a personnel committee of the whole? Any other further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. With that, we will set a Personnel Committee of the whole date.
Looking for recommended times?
Yep. But you want to be at it, I assume.
Would like to.
I think it would be important.
Mr. Chair, we don't currently, I don't think, have anything scheduled after our board meeting on the 28th.
That's a rarity.
Yeah.
You could do after that board meeting. We'd have to do the late morning because there's HHS, that's canceled now as well. So 28th would be an option.
Let's do the 28th, that works.
Like 11 o'clock, Mr. Chair?
Or
I'll make a
10:30.
motion to set a Personnel Committee of the whole meeting
May
for
20th.
May 28th at 11 o'clock.
I'll second that.
All right. So we have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Hewson to schedule a Personnel Committee of the whole on May 28th at 11 a.m. Any other further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Personnel Committee of the whole is scheduled. All right. Now we will move on to the timed item, which is maybe 10 minutes behind here. We'll go with Mr. Mattice here to adopt a resolution authorizing signatures on snowmobile grant aid program.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This annual item that we bring forth for you is to adopt a resolution authorizing appropriate county officials to sign the grant and aid paperwork for the Snowmobile Association. As you know, all our clubs are part of one association, have a grant and aid program through DNR for maintenance and signage and stuff for their trails. This allows me to sign the paperwork, the reimbursement paperwork. The money funnels to the auditor's office. I okay it, it goes back out to the club. It's a performance grant-based thing.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing signatures on the snowmobile grant and aid program.
I second it.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Dahlheiden for the snowmobile grant aid program. Any other further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Resolution.
Sorry, resolution, yep, sorry. Commissioner Potter.
Aye.
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 All right. Resolution passes.
Thank you. Due to the timeliness of this, we were gonna enact it. Got her. Thank you.
Mr. Asleson,
Morning,
Chief
Mr. Chair.
Deputy Attorney.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. One more time, excuse me.
That's all
The
I've
action
been-
item that is before you today is to approve of retaining Clay Dodd to perform appraisals for purposes of tax court. Tony Rasmussen, County Assessor, and I have two appeals currently under scheduling orders with the court. Probably would be tried somewhere into 2020 if they go to trial, but we're asking to retain Mr. Dodd. He's worked with the county before on some fairly large industrial properties, and these are both, as I indicate, those huge warehouses along the east side of Highway 101. And so we're hoping to work with him again. We've been successful. He structured his proposal such that he will come to us with kind of a preliminary product that won't be in writing, and that'll give us an opportunity to negotiate with the landowner. And then, as he indicates, I think under appraisal fee, the section on the second page, appraisal fee, phase 2 would be the full written appraisal, and then there are, as always, additional fees if we went to trial and had to pay an hourly rate for testimony, that type of thing.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve retaining Clay M. Dodd to perform appraisals for purposes of tax court.
We have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden for the retaining Clay Dodd to perform appraisals. Any further discussion?
Chair?
Yes.
Is this for, how old is that building? 2 years, 3 years?
Tony?
So is this for just last year or from the beginning?
I think these are both, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Delayden, these are both paid 2018 appeals, so we're fighting about the taxes that were paid last year, the value for taxes payable last year. I believe they filed a petition for pay 19 as
Yeah,
well.
I would assume so.
By the time this goes to trial, they'll likely file a pay 20 appeal, which means that we'll be fighting over about 3 years worth of taxes.
Okay. All right,
All right,
thank you.
Mr. Chair.
yes.
I don't know if Tony could come up and speak to this, but is there, I mean, what is the issues that we can't seem to get it resolved? I mean, is one side being kind of hard-headed, or what's going on?
We have a difficult attorney, for one thing.
Did you say difficult attorney?
Difficult
The
attorney.
one behind you? Oh, okay, all right.
Another one. They went to the same school.
Really, at this point, we haven't had a lot of discussion. They have a tax rep that has been working on this, has not contacted me to have a discussion about it. I have sent a couple emails to the attorney representing Duke, asking for cost data, and have not received that, so.
But you feel your evaluation that your team has done is
Yes.
accurate?
Yes, I do. Otherwise, I would have
Well,
had a
that,
settlement.
I'm
agreed to.
assuming that, yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you.
Anything else?
Nope.
All right.
We have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion
you.
passes. Thank you. Mr. Kreisler.
Mr. Chair, members of the board. Two representatives from Lake John for the past few years have been acquiring petitions to try to create a lake improvement district along that lake. And they have indicated now that they're ready to proceed with filing that petition. And before they do that, I thought it'd be wise if we scheduled a proposed public hearing date just to try to keep everything on schedule. We're looking at July 16th. That works for the board.
You could do it during is that a Tuesday? Is that a county board meeting?
That's county board meeting day,
Okay.
yes.
Yes.
Now,
You said July 16th?
July 16th, yeah.
And
We have to give 30 days notice, we have to notify the DNR.
10:30?
No, we don't go that late, because
9:30.
there's 9:30.
9:30
Yeah.
normally.
Oh, during the meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing for the creation of a Lake John Association Lake Improvement District for July 16th at 9:30.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Houston to schedule a public hearing on July 16th at 9:30 a.m. in regards to the creation of a lake improvement district on Lake John.
And Lee, that is the third meeting. That is the third Tuesday in July.
That is
Should be
correct,
okay.
yes.
Okay. I don't know anymore what our schedule is.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Well, have we canceled? I suppose we'll cancel the,
We don't.
It's on the agenda.
The what?
yeah, that's what I'm saying, we're putting, maybe, are we putting the cart before the horse here now? We
you're not
ruled out
canceling.
one Tuesday that we can't cancel. There's 5 Tuesdays in
They're
July.
requesting to cancel July 30th.
July 30th?
Yeah.
And who requested that?
Well, I won't be around then.
Well, I'm just saying, what, you know.
Actually,
but
Commissioner
I think that
Vetch and
was
I
just
won't be
mentioned.
there anyway. We've got nuclear.
Nuclear, that's the reason, because I've got to be, I'm in St. Paul that day, so.
Yeah. So two of us won't be
Either-
here.
yep.
I mean, I was
On the 30th?
personally hoping for the
Yep.
second, but
Yeah,
that's
then I won't
okay.
be here either,
So,
so we
we
can't.
wouldn't have a quorum.
We can't have a meeting, so
Okay, I'm good.
Okay.
don't come on the 30th, if we get to that point.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is Lake John, is that the one that flows into Lake Sylvia? Or is that a separate?
Yes.
I believe so,
Yeah.
yes.
It goes-
Okay.
yep.
It does flow, okay.
Yep.
That's what I thought, just wanted to make sure.
All right. Any other further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Public hearing is set for July 16th at 9:30 a.m. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Virgil Hawkins has a couple items that he's going to request for us to take action on.
Morning, Chairman Vetch and Board of Commissioners. There are two items today, and the first of which is to approve a resolution for a MnDOT agreement that came before you on May 7th. And the agreement was passed by motion, but the resolution wasn't acted on at that meeting, so just bringing back the resolution to be acted on today.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Dialyden on the resolution for agency agreement.
You got a question?
Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, this is a resolution. Commissioner Burrell?
Aye.
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 Resolution passes.
Thank you. The next item is consideration to reject the bids that we received last Tuesday for our Highway 19 and 38 project in Albertville and Otsego. The summary of bids is attached. We did receive 2 bids. The low bid was 37% over our estimate. So we're recommending rejecting the bids, rebidding the project later this year, and then starting the work next year. We have done some checking around with our agency partners, Otsego, Albertville, Joint Powers, and they're all okay with doing that, proceeding in that manner. There are a variety of reasons why the bids came in high, some of which is workload. The contractors that would normally bid our projects didn't even bid, some of them because they're too busy this year. The bids lately have been on the high side. Private utilities coordination within this project was another reason cited. Public utilities coordination, there's water main and there's a force main in Albertville that could get done this year and wouldn't have to be contended with next year that if we wait. And then some other issues when we talk to contractors, building 19 half at a time, the way it was set up to build this year was to do it under traffic, and that caused some bids to be higher too. And then the subs workload, they had trouble getting subs on the job too because they were busy too. So those are some of the reasons the bids came in high.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion, we reject the bids received for the county state aid Highway 1938 project and authorize rebidding for the project this fall.
I will second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Houston to reject the bids on CASA 1938 project and rebid in the fall. Any further discussion?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Virgil, I did talk with the city of Albertville last night on this, and they were in total agreement with you, is because there's too many things going on right now between the wet weather, the workload, everything. They're just too complicated. That's why the bids came in high, and I'm buying into that because what's going on. The other question I have is, since we delayed County Road 37 from 19 to 18 for a year because of the 19 projects, what does that do to the status of that project?
That's a good question, and there's a number of things that are fluid right now. Next week, and Tuesday, we open bids for our 39 buffer lane project, and because we're rejecting these bids and pushing this project till next year, we've done an addendum to require that project to get completely done this year, which there would be a detour involved using 18 and 19. So that could change. We'll open those bids and see where that's at, but until some of these things are known, we'll have to have those discussions to see if.
Because the idea was not to have both of those places close at the same time because of the trouble, but since the 119 is not going now, revisit 37.
We will. We'll look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm a little confused on the piping that's going to be City of Albertville's doing. Are we going to be digging up the same areas twice?
No. No, they were going to do they have a force main project that they opened bids a few days ago. They're going to award it, and talking with Adam, they're going to award it and have their contractor do the work. But originally it was going to be done while our detour was in place for building 38. But their work is off the road, so they can still continue and get that work done without our project being detoured.
The one project now, Mark, was the gas main was being moved.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure that we're not digging a hole and then filling it and re-digging.
Oh.
Okay. All right. Although, there was one price in here that I still thought was a good.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
Was better.
Yeah. I mean, they said zero amount, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
we checked with them and they opted not to do it for that price.
Oh, all right. Ah, darn it.
Because there'd been a list, the list should have been longer of people bidding it, and the fact that you're missing a few of the ones that usually bid on everything we're doing tells you that they're full already.
So we have so we have a motion, we have a second, any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Bids are rejected.
Thank you.
We'll see you in the fall.
Virgil, before you run away, just relax, Tammy. I was down as long as Virgil's here, I figured I'd bring it up now. But I was down at City of Hanover. MnDOT kind of had an open house. I think it was requested by the City of Hanover. And Virgil and Sarah were there along with Loretto, Corcoran.
some Hennepin folks
Yeah.
too.
And then somebody from Jeff Johnson's office was there. Dan Adu. Dan Adu. Why don't you elaborate a little bit on what was discussed there?
Oh, well, the meeting just talked about the MnDOT I-94 projects and talked about some of the mitigation that the state is going to be doing and has done already for the traffic issues that might come up on the local system. And there were a number, they did some projections, they ran some numbers, and they determined there will be some increases to our system in parallel roads, local roads, which we expect. The I-94 project will not have a detour, though. They're doing all the work under the daytime, maintaining 2 lanes of traffic in each direction, the part from St. Michael to Albertville. So even though there's no detour, there will be people that will choose not to go on 94 because of the work. So we do anticipate some added traffic to our highways. That was a concern from some of the local cities. The MnDOT study or evaluation did determine there's some issues in Hennepin County that they're actually going to put money and do some mitigation at intersections where there's no signals and things like that. But there's no planned mitigation by MnDOT in anywhere in Wright County. So we'll just have some additional traffic on parallel routes, 19, 75, 18, 37. We'll see some increased traffic.
34 too, I think it also, they said.
Probably.
And I know that you were stating that the first study they had done, you didn't agree with those numbers, and they came back with a second set where it showed some substantial increases in
Correct.
some of those numbers.
Correct. Yeah, the initial study they sent us months ago didn't show hardly any increases to our system, which didn't jive with what we think is going to happen. So they reran some numbers, and it did show 1,000 ADT increase on 19 and on 34, 500 or 600 increase. And those are projections, and they could be higher. We'll see.
So we're going to,
Time will tell.
yeah, and they're going to do traffic counts to get some ideas and stuff too.
Yeah, we'll certainly be monitoring it and doing what we can with the signal system timing on 19. If adjustments need to be made, we'll do that.
One of the other things that came up was regarding County Road 19 in both Hennepin and Wright County. And ours is scheduled for around 2025 or something like that for an improvement on 19. And Hennepin County kind of said they didn't have any plans for 19 is what I kind of gathered.
Correct. Our lost program list shows that 19 in Hanover as a project in the 10-year plus time frame, so 2027 or somewhere in that area. And the Hennepin engineer that was there, they don't really have any improvements in their radar right now for their part of 19 south of Hanover.
So they would never, that means unless they were partners with us, they wouldn't address the bridge in Hanover then?
Well, the bridge is a key thing, and it's a Hanover bridge. They own it. We'd certainly pay our half, our share, but that would need to have something done to it.
That is a bottleneck there?
Oh, man.
Oh, that's an understatement.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
Been on it. I've never been on during rush
my
hour.
goodness.
like-
Well,
Go there
yeah.
in the morning and go there in the evening, 4 or 5 o'clock.
Actually, don't go
Times
there
are
then.
Morning and afternoon, there's
But Hanover, but the Hennepin County side doesn't seem to think of it as an issue because the traffic's coming from.
they've got a lot of issues in the ring of the cities that
Just
are.
They're backed up
They
like,
just don't have the money, and
Yeah.
as he said, they're earmarking more of their money for transit and then not for
They have
roadways.
bigger fish to fry than.
I mean, isn't it about 2 miles from the bridge to the three-way stop? Or the three-way stop?
For 19,
Yeah,
and
well, it's 4-way, but it's,
No, because one,
no,
no, three-way. So that people coming,
actually, it's only a two-way stop.
okay.
No, it is a three-way, yeah, you're right.
Anyway, that's
People
at
heading-
least 1.5 miles, maybe 2 miles, and people are backed up to there. So, waiting for-
It's bad, especially on a Friday, Thursday, Friday nights.
Yeah.
Pretty soon it's gonna get as bad as Highway 12 down in Waverly and Delano and Montrose.
Yeah, and this is a county road.
Yeah.
It's never designed for that kind of traffic
No.
flow.
no, it's,
So it'll be really interesting to see what those numbers show.
Yes, it will.
How long ago was that, Mark?
What would a bridge like roughly
When'd you have
like
that
cost to put across that? Like
It
to
was-
replace that to a 4-lane bridge, what would that cost?
Wednesday night.
Well, I mean, I know you're, we should,
Tuesday night?
That's a good question. I think bridge costs are basically about $160 a square foot of bridge area, so it just depends on the area of the
area,
bridge.
so, I
Thursday
mean,
night.
so it's quite expensive either way. And if it was to be done, it would be a portion of the city of Hanover would pay, the county pay, and the Hennepin County would pay?
There would need to be a lot of partners to fund it.
Because you did, yeah,
We widened that bridge in 98 or 99, along with rebuilding 19 through Hanover, so just 20 years ago. So those are some of our newest improvements in our system.
Wow.
We widened that to improve the sight distance and add a sidewalk on that bridge, and Hennepin paid half. And so that's relatively new compared to some of the roads and
I
bridges.
don't think you
on our
never
system.
could have envisioned that you'd outgrow it this fast.
Right.
Man,
Yeah, in Hanover, that section right there in Hanover will also, with the school and the cemetery, will create some,
There's a lot of challenges there.
yeah.
It created a challenge last time when they did the center turn lane. And it'll do more now.
you know.
The
Anyway,
school,
I just,
the school there is a factor too with when they let school out and things like that, that we're going to meet with them in the city to talk about things that can be done possibly to help improve the situation.
Anyway, I just wanted,
Yeah,
as long as Virgil is here, he's the expert.
good to bring it up.
Yep. Thank you, Virgil.
Thank you.
Thanks, Virgil.
I don't see Mr. Hevola out there, so that must mean that
Tammy.
Tammy's on duty today.
We have a birthday girl.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I make
Really?
a motion,
Do we
we wish her happy
Oh,
birthday.
do we
I'll
sing?
second that. No, I think she should lead us in our happy birthday song.
Yes, I hope they put that in the paper too, you know. Big county board wishes happy birthday, right? Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. It's not yet, but yet.
Oh, it's not? Oh, then Potter lied to us.
They're all spreading bad rumors.
It's her birthday week, which is her birthday month,
There
which
you
is
go.
birthday every day.
It's her birthday year, oh wait.
So what day will the cake be available?
They had it for me yesterday, actually.
Oh, jeez.
That was a well-kept secret.
So was
It
yesterday was your
I ate
birthday?
your share,
Tomorrow.
Mark.
Tomorrow. Oh, you ate my share? Well, thank you.
He did, yeah.
I was
There's
thinking about
more.
it,
There's some more snacks up there if you'd like to come up, so.
One day I don't go into the auditor's office and eat that cake.
Right? Yeah, you missed out yesterday.
I know.
So, anyway, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I've got a few items on the agenda. The first is to approve the April revenue and expenditure budget report. I was not made aware of any items to point out, so as far as I know, everything is.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the April revenue expenditure budget report.
Second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden to approve the revenue expenditure report. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Sorry, expenditure report and revenue approved. Next is the approval of minutes from the Ditch Committee of the Whole on May 3rd. Everybody looks at it, there's 3 pages there. I do want to point out that myself and Mr. Detchen met at the Soil and Water and kind of talked a little bit about there and kind of got their verbal blessing to move forward with having the attorney's office drop some sort of a contract for the engineering position chair.
Do you want to highlight any of the
I guess
minutes?
we can highlight some of the minutes at the Ditch Committee of the Whole. We addressed the structure for repayment of assessments and kind of going anywhere from 1 year to 20 years, depending on the amount of money being assessed to the property. Details of that is within the minutes. Also, we worked on the possible agreement between Soil and Water and Wright County to have a shared hours for an engineering position to work on county ditches. And then we also talked about some risk management concerns in regards to our drainage management, our drainage coordinator position. And then we also discussed the buffer enforcement grants and expenditures and the abilities of purchasing a drone and when and details surrounding that. So With that, I'll look for a motion to approve the ditch committee of the whole minutes from May 3rd.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, a second by Commissioner Dahlheiden. Any further discussion?
Chair?
Yes.
Regarding some of the interest rates and the assessments for repairs, I'm trying to think where I was reading it, and I don't know if that was in the legislators, or did I pass that on to you regarding some funding that may be available for these sort of things where it's a loan agreement?
Yeah, it was the Ag BMP loan program.
And it was made for, I mean, it'd be able to use for this purpose, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they were doing, and actually doing a pretty good job of updating it, because to get the funds is kind of a huge mess, or it was currently, and now they're doing it for the buffer cost share, kind of doing that so you don't have to do it project by project and foot by foot. You can just kind of take a whole grant sum, and that would be used towards, funding the buffers, and then it would be at a lower interest rate.
Yeah, what was it, 2% or 1%?
Yeah, I think it's real low. Like
Yeah, it was really nice, so I'm just thinking, something we need to look into to help offset some of these costs for some of these farmers and stuff.
Yeah, if these people can save 2-3% less than what we're gonna offer them, that's great.
So, thanks, man.
Right,
The last item that we have is the approving the.
we gotta vote.
Sorry.
Yep. So any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Now we'll approve the resolution for findings of facts and ordering, accepting the viewer's report and adopting a redetermination of benefits for County Ditch 10.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Dahlheiden. This is a resolution. Commissioner Hewsome.
Aye.
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 Resolution passes. We have a new benefited roles for County Ditch 10.
That was a tough one, wasn't it, Ted?
That was. I did a lot of talking.
All right.
Make you work so hard on your birthday week.
All right, next, we will move on to the items for consideration. We have the committee minutes, Personnel Committee of the Whole from May 7th. If Commissioner Dahlheiden, you said you would take care of the Personnel Committee of the Whole?
Thank you, Board Chair. Personnel Committee of the Whole met on May 7th. Two items were discussed. One was surveyor's request to reclassify a position. The county surveyor wanted an administrative assistant's pay grade 11, and there was some concerns when this was at the Personnel Committee. So it was suggested that it go to the Committee of the Whole. And it was decided to go ahead and move it forward and for the amount that was budgeted. So we authorized the county surveyor to draft the survey administrative job description and send out for appointing. If this comes back at grade 11 or below, the surveyor may proceed to advertise and hire. I just have a concern with creating another position, so we're in the midst of all this other stuff. Our second item was Department of Motor Vehicle staffing. Because of MNLARS, the state putting more work on the local licensing bureaus, it was decided that we should have some additional help down there. And it's an issue throughout the state, and one of the things that did make it through, from my understanding, looking at the preliminary budget, was 13 million, I think it was.
13 for reimbursement and money for it.
Yeah, for help with deputy registers, just because it's been a nightmare for them. So we recommended approving to hire a full-time office technician 1 in the license bureau to help out. It's something that is not going to go away. With all the additional work that's been put on the local deputy registers. With the MinLAR systems, and the MinLAR systems is going to go away. It's not going to be really updated or fixed at all, and then they'll have to have additional training for the new software that's going to be out there, which I believe was also approved in the preliminary state budget. With that, I'll make a motion to approve minutes and recommendations.
Second.
So we have approval, or we have a motion by Commissioner Dahlhead and a second by Commissioner Potter to approve the Personnel Committee of the Whole from May 7th. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Potter.
On these two positions, the one with the surveyors, the position there, will take your higher paid people and not make them do more of the, I hate to refer to it as the mundane tasks of organizing the paperwork, where they can keep doing their frontline work. That's the reason for that, because sometimes you gotta still put everything together, collate it and file it, and it's tough when you got the real expensive. It's kind of like having the most expensive maintenance staff sitting on the lawnmower outside. It's not the person you want there. The second position there, it has a multifaceted benefit to us. By having that extra person in there, when they have somebody out on vacation or sick, then you still are full staff, because if you have somebody out on vacation and another one on sick leave, then they're short-staffed down there and those lines get really long, and that's not being good for customer service. So both these positions actually see there is a county benefit to them, albeit the License Bureau one will be exponentially larger because of the public view there. Thank you.
I do want to note, though, that the surveyor's position was a budgeted position, so it's just more of a clarification of the position for its approval. It was not a newly approved position.
Correct.
And I do believe that for the DMV, we are doing right by our citizens by trying to shorten their wait times in trying to renew their tabs and renew their licenses. So it's a very worthy cause for the citizens. So.
And Mr. Chair, I have had citizens beg that we get somebody more down there because of the long lines, so.
Yeah, it's
So
just
they'll appreciate that.
kind of a tough area there. I mean,
It
it's kind of tight to work
It
in.
is.
But at least they'll be able to, one of the things I keep hearing is that people are waiting in line for a birth certificate, which is not available there, and it's upstairs.
Right.
So the whole idea is trying to do a little triage to help people.
Correct. That's the
Make
other
sure they
benefit.
have everything filled out or the proper paperwork before they get to the front of the line and find out they don't. So hopefully this will
Help.
improve customer service for the residents.
Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Personnel Committee of the Whole from May 7th is approved. Now we have the...
Mr. Chair, can I just interrupt for a second? I'm just reading back, and I missed this before, on the County Ditch 10, there's something that I don't think is accurate on the findings, and I don't know if we can go back and revisit that or not. The 12 Mile Creek is not a public watercourse. It's not listed on, so maybe if we took out public and just say that the 12 Mile Creek watercourse, it's not listed on the inventory, and it's not a public watercourse. So I was just glancing at that and I saw it.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I don't have the resolution in front of me right now. I think the best thing to do is if there is something that needs to be changed, we can do it at the next meeting. Why don't we do that?
Okay.
We'll review it next week.
Maybe we could hold off putting that in the paper.
We'd have to make a motion to rescind the resolution then at that point to then basically hold out.
We'll adopt a resolution if we have to amend it.
Okay, so
Could I make the
So
motion?
you don't want,
to
we don't need to
rescind?
rescind, we don't have to
I
rescind
would
it?
do it, don't do anything right now.
Okay.
If something needs to be corrected, we'll do it next week.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, yeah, I noticed that, and then I'm like,
And
okay.
And Mr. Chair, Mr. Kreiser, I'm not sure, Commissioner Burrell, does that actually change the
Oh, no, it
finding?
wouldn't, but it's
resolution?
just we shouldn't codify something that's not accurate. That's, is that the right word?
Yeah, we shouldn't affirm something.
Yeah, you're affirming something
Yeah,
kind
the
of by
DNR may
doing
like to
this,
say
you
it
know.
is, but it's not.
But, I mean, I could see somebody coming back and, when the county board later says, well, that's not a public water course, you even voted on it.
And
good to get it
then you're
corrected.
solidifying their case, yeah.
No, the
Yeah.
DNR is very good at misstating the law, so we shouldn't help them in their effort.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Okay, so then we'll deal with that next week then.
So-
Sorry, I didn't.
No, you're good. So, Commissioner Hewson, Personnel Committee minutes from May 8th.
Thank you. Personnel Employee Relations Committee met on May 8th, 2019. Members present, Delighten Hewson, Sean Johnson, Hartlow, Kate Dahl, Sarah Gocious, Jerry Goodrum Schwartz, Jamie Goodrum Schwartz, and Lee Kelly. The first item was the vacant collection officer position, and fiscal supervisor Kate Dahl gave us a budget amendment form, actually, supporting the HHS request to convert a vacant collection officer position to an account technician position. There's 4 collections officers, and one has recently retired. By realigning the job duties of the collections officers in budgeting, invoicing, coding, and billing, they'll allow more efficiencies in the area. So actually, this is a cost savings to the county because the starting wage is lower than the collections officer wage. So we agreed, Commissioner Delighten and I, that this realignment of duties is a win-win for both the agency and the county. So we recommended approving to reclassify a vacant collection officer position to an account technician. Excuse me, I'm having a little voice problems today, too. The second was to approve the grant-paid public health positions through the 4-year multi-county evidence-based home visiting grant to the Minnesota Department of Health, 1 full-time employee for the Healthy Families, and families isn't spelled correctly, American program, and 1 full-time employee for the Nurse Family Partnership, effective 5/1/19. This is, we approved these grants at our Health and Human Services Board meeting on March 11th, 2019, and also the joint powers agreement for the program. The 4 counties that are involved in this collaboration are Benton, Sherburne, and Stearns. It was proposed in the grant, and Sarah Gocious said that each base model has its own cost with differentiating fees. The intent of this model is to share staff and develop set fees that are paid by the respective county that receives the requested services. This will assist in all the participating counties in sharing future training and recruitment costs. So both Commissioner Delighten and I were agreeable to this recommendation, and it's to approve 2 grant-paid public health positions through the 4-year multi-county evidence-based home visiting grant through Minnesota Department of Health. And with that, Mr. Chair, and all the supporting documents are in your packet. I'll talk about the budget amendment, which is a reclass that would be a savings to the county, and the grant-based.
I'll second it.
With that, yep. I
You're
will-
making a motion to
Motion
approve the
to
minutes
approve the
and
minutes and
recommend.
the recommendation with the change of the spelling of families in both places.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Hewson, a second by Commissioner Delighten for the approval of the minutes and the recommendations from the May 8th Personnel Committee. With that, do we have any discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In that particular day, it was obvious that Commissioner Delighten's no buttons battery was bad. Hard time on that one. The other thing that we did this at the library, Great River Regional Library Board. In fact, we've been acting on it tonight. Is all these grants that buy positions for an extended period of time, that those are put on there knowing that at the end of the grant, they get revisited whether they stay or where they go. They don't just automatically go into there.
Right.
Because those are budget killers to start with.
Right.
That's like the Republicans in the House in the sense that it's government on autopilot, which we really don't want that. So each time we get a grant for a position for a specific amount of time, it doesn't automatically become a position. It has to be revisited. And I just hope that the rest of them are in accord with that.
Yep, definitely.
Mr. Kelly, is that something that we can put into our HRIS system that basically triggers us to review it? That's a grant-funded position?
Correct.
So,
We could certainly track that.
so that way we can at least,
Right.
we're not adding to the pre-approved column 4 years from now.
Yeah, the way it sounds is too, that these are self-sustaining, so
And-
hopefully they will. But we'll have a better idea.
Right.
Yep.
They were
And-
selling then.
And it is,
Yep.
it is 4 counties, so it definitely involves more discussion and definitely,
And Mr. Chair, it's not like I'm targeting these ones, it's just all of them in
Yeah.
general.
No, I agree.
Because we
We-
need to know where that's
we do.
at, so all of a sudden, how did you
Yep.
get those 6 people over there? Well, we got a grant for a year, and then it became our issue.
oh,
You know,
Yep.
and you're growing government without,
Yeah, and this is a 4-year grant, I believe.
it's 4 years, so,
So
but yeah.
they should get a good baseline.
yep.
So any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes and recommendations from May 8th Personnel Committee are approved. May 14th Workshop, Mr. Kelly.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. As mentioned, we met on May 14th for a workshop with all 5 commissioners, representatives from administration, Health and Human Services, the Auditor Treasurer's Office, as well as the Sheriff's Office as well. We had Mark Hansen who's the Economic Development Coordinator with CM JTS in attendance for the first item to talk about the 7W SEDS, or Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, and talk about some of the county priorities. He had requested that the board review the documents that were discussed at a recent 7W meeting and provide some priorities. Where we landed was transportation, affordable housing, labor force, broadband, and business growth / labor force for our topics that we wanted them to focus on. So he's carrying that forward to the group for further discussion. Our second item was financial forecasting prior to our budget process. We went over a exercise that I know staff has been working with for quite a while in conjunction with a few of the commissioners, trying to develop projections for our 5-year budget going forward that we've leveraged for the 2019 budget and are continuing to develop it. Talked about some of the assumptions that we're using in our current development of this document. It's very much a work in progress, but I thought it was good to review kind of some of the assumptions that we're using at this point. And additional revisions and corrections are certainly ongoing as we work towards budget. Next item, we did a quick review of the investments of the county and our fund balances in each of those. It was provided by Auditor Treasurer Hevola. The next item was RTCC, or the Regional Transportation Coordinating Council resolution. It was presented at, I believe it was the February workshop regarding this RTCC concept. We had some discussion at this meeting in May, and kind of the consensus of the group was to not proceed forward with adopting the resolution in support of the RTCC movement. So that item will not come back to board. Assistant County Administrator Virgin provided an update of the CIP document, the projects and what's planned for 2020 and the balance of the funds that support the CIP. We talked a little bit about the utilization of the MCIT fund dividend, as well as the county program aid allocation and how we've used that relative to funding of the CIP. So we're planning to leverage the levy and work out our reliance on those CPA and MCIT dividend funds going forward in the budget process. So we're planning another meeting here in June to review the updated CIP as more projects are being gathered at this time for the 2020 budget sessions. Next item was the process for county administrator's performance review. That was talked about by Sean Johnson, HR Director, was directed to send the county board department heads and assistant county administrator a 360-degree performance review form regarding myself. Johnson will compile the reviews and the board will meet in late June to review those. A few other things were discussed, talking about canceling a board meeting in July. July 30th was proposed, and another item was having a board meeting prior to the workshop days, which is the next item on the agenda as an item for consideration. Summary of the minutes.
I want to make one note, Mr. Kelly, item number 3, the fund balance piece, maybe it's worth noting that that number is artificially high because we are holding Justice Center bond proceeds in there. I don't want the general public to think that we, as a given rule, keep $100 million in reserves. It's just inflated because there's over $40 million in bond proceeds that we haven't had to make payments yet on, so.
Correct. Good to point that out.
And also, Mr. Chair, let the public know that Auditor Treasurer Hevola and his staff have leveraged them dollars and laddered them out, so as the draw schedule comes in, those parts become, so we're maximizing returns and getting interest on, which is a smart way of doing business.
Yep. I just don't want people to make assumptions that there's more money than there really is, so.
True.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the County Board Workshop meeting of May 14th.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Potter, a second by Commissioner Dahlhead, and any further discussion?
Chair. The financial forecasting prior to budget process, if I remember correctly, they sent us an updated one in an email, and because the 2020 forecast on here is,
It's grossly off. Yeah, this one here is, I do want to make sure that this document has errors in it, and it is nowhere close to correct. So anybody that looks at this, please omit it, because I maybe want to, can we, I think we should make a motion that this should be read across it and just say error. I want to make sure that it lives in the minutes that it's not
either that or the correct one be replaced.
replaced, or the correct one be replaced.
Because if I remember
the
correctly,
best.
2020 shows 9% or something like that.
They're missing,
So, yeah, it's not, it's,
they missed
Not
some big
accurate at all.
numbers, yeah.
so I don't want this out there because we're gonna get held to it.
Either it's got to have big red marks on it, or you're going to have to, put the other one in, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it'd be best to replace with the accurate one that was provided.
Right, okay,
I
and
agree,
I'll
Mr.
make sure that
Chair.
my motion that says we'll replace it with the accurate ones of
Right.
that.
I know, second.
And then, and you're going to include some sort of a line letting people know that 100 million has some bond proceeds in it, that I just
Sure.
don't want them to think that that's,
Yeah,
That's a good point.
yeah, and again, maybe over this budget scenarios, highlight that it's a scenario or something. This, it's
it's hypothetical. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't,
Mr.
draft
Chair,
or-
it's certainly a very living document in the
Yeah.
sense that
Correct.
I just don't
we're
want,
just beginning the process of gathering budget information from the departments and what they see
Yeah.
for 2020's budget. So this it demonstrates kind of the thought process and the things we're looking at, but it is not, it's very preliminary in our budget.
Yes.
yeah, and I just want people to be aware of that part of it.
And
I don't
at
want
least
people
it's
to-
listed as budget forecasting, but but still,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep, all right.
So,
So,
yeah, highlight the forecast.
so you have the motion and a second with the modifications. Any other further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Workshop from May 14th is approved. Item B, discuss brief board meetings on workshop days. So there was kind of brought up some kind of discussion because we've had issues with just housekeeping issues, having to wait an extended period of time because of workshops. So looking to have kind of I guess I don't know what the parameters would be, kind of just consent agenda items and
Items that need immediate action.
items that need immediate action, yeah.
We've had, a couple of times when a personnel committee has a position or change or whatever has been approved, but they have to wait almost 2 weeks before it goes to the board before they can actually post. And then, do you just go ahead and post, and then it gets approved after the fact? So that's just an example of things that come up. But sometimes we have contracts that come up that something might have gotten missed because things happen. So they'll have this grant perhaps that that comes up and they need it approved by a certain date so they can apply for it. So there's just some of those kinds of things that come up, and I just,
Mr. Chair.
I personally feel it'd be a good idea to have a brief meeting, a 15-minute meeting, to approve any things that are kind of time sensitive.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did have a little bit of discussion on this workshop concept from earlier before we finally adopted it. And we knew there was going to be a couple of rough patches in there. And I think if it was a modification where if there is an issue come up, the time sensitive, we would have that on the workshop meeting. If there isn't, then we just go with the workshop. I mean, it can be modified, because we were talking about modifying this to match what's going on. And sometimes people miss deadlines or they forget about the workshop thing.
Right.
But it's not going to be every time, and it's probably not going to be every time. So I think this holding a 15-minute board meeting before the workshop every single time, I'm not sure if everything rises to that level of importance on
Yeah.
that.
The hardest thing about it is having regular scheduled board meetings and published meetings, and it would be hard to delineate that sometimes you're going to, sometimes you're not. So either you do it all the time, or you don't do it at all. So that's the challenging piece to it.
Well, it has to be published and stuff
I mean,
like
that was going to be the comment I would make. If you're having a board meeting, you're having a board meeting. That means you're publishing 3 days' notice, you have a packet, you have agendas, whether it's 5 minutes or 5 hours, it's still, those are the methodology we'd have to go through. I would agree with Commissioner Potter's statement. We did put the workshops in kind of as a pilot. I think it has maybe highlighted some of the longer delays of our current practices, in that we have required things that have gone to committee then to be back to the board. So I struggle with if it's a issue that we're just getting used to a new practice and need to continue to be adapting to that, or if it warrants adding an additional meeting. My concern is that I don't think it would be a 15-minute meeting over time. As departments would continue to leverage it, I think we'd end up with a full meeting again, which maybe that's what we decide to do at the end of the pilot period. But I guess I just want to reiterate that I don't think it'd end up being a short meeting. I think it'd be a full meeting eventually. And secondly, if we're going to have a board meeting, we have to do it like we've been doing all the other 3 or 4.
Mr. Chair? Administrator Kelly's got some good talking points in this request for board action. Regarding Personnel Committee, it was an unusual thing that had happened, because normally we always meet the second week, and that's when the workshops are. So we meet the day after, so normally that's not an issue for personnel.
Depends on where Tuesday and Wednesday fall,
Kind of.
Yeah, it does, but I think that's kind of an unusual application where it's happened. The administrator has the ability to call for an emergency meeting. So if it is, regarding the parameters, if it's going to cost the county money, I think, that's an emergency. If we need to do something where it has a major effect on the financial outcome of the county, that's an emergency. That needs to be addressed as quickly as possible. The personnel things, once the Personnel Committee approves it, there's no reason why it can't be posted. If it's we're not talking about these 12% and these things that are unusual,
well,
but normal ones. I mean, we've already helped improve the 12% deal at this point.
Just for those positions.
Yeah, but still, I mean, we do need to look at how can we improve the hiring and that sort of stuff.
right.
Are we losing people because we're taking so long to get things? And that has happened.
That has happened.
Multiple times. I mean, we had a great candidate, which is one of the reasons
We
why
lost, yep,
that one for the HHS is in there, because we lost the other candidate because we took too long.
because we didn't have a meeting for the 2 weeks or whatever, and we lost the candidate.
I'm careful because I'm not in favor of diluting my position to delegate, then I would want to have an elected administrator then, because I tell you, I'm not in the aptitude to want to dilute the position too much that you want to delegate all the decisions there.
No, I'm not either.
I mean, that's,
And that's what gets a little dangerous if we start going out too much out of our parameters or our policies and procedures. So.
But we do need to look at making things as efficient as possible.
We do, and we have streamlined, from when we came on board, and everything, even pre-approved positions, had to go before the Personnel Committee, even though they're already in the budget. So we've streamlined that so that if it's already an approved position, they can post if it's vacant. But we have, some of these other issues that might come up, and it's not just for personnel, but I don't know, it's.
Well, I think since the administrator can call an emergency meeting of the board, he can talk to the board chair, and if the board chair says, yes, there should be an emergency meeting,
Well,
proceed in that direction. Otherwise, to have a board meeting before every workshop, I'm just not in favor of that at this
I think
point.
that, and it's been some years since I've talked to other counties that have this, but it seems like that's the model they'd have. They have the board meeting and recess to their workshop, essentially. So, but, it's the board's decision.
I like that idea, and then just have it. I don't know how much administration extra cost it would be, because we'll do the video for that short segment, and then we will adjourn and go into the workshop,
The only problem I have is that a lot of our workshops now are in this room. They're over in a different building or, so now we've got that time
Yeah, but you'd have.
loss.
yeah, but you would have your board meeting at 9, and technically the workshops were scheduled for 10. So technically,
Yeah.
you have 1 hour to actually really have the board meeting from that
So we're going to have a board meeting every workshop?
every Tuesday. But I'm almost inclined at this point to play it out the rest of this year, and when we set our board meetings next year at the beginning of the year, that we at that time determine whether we will go every 4 or we just play it out. I think we have to give it the full 12 months to kind of.
And that's.
We've had some weeks where it was a little bit tough to get that happen, but then we've had weeks where it wasn't really an issue at all. So I want to kind of see a few more months.
We can do that. It's just, it's good to have this discussion, because when we're looking at next year, and I'm thinking, honestly, just items that really need to be addressed, not to have, all these other things, but if the meeting lasts for 10 minutes, then it lasts for 10 minutes, and then we would recess. I would say that you'd recess and have your workshop at 9:30, but,
Either recess or would you?
or adjourn.
Close the board, adjourn.
Yep.
Hey, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mr.
Potter.
Chair. When we discussed this, we had a lot of different scenarios, and they knew there was going to be wrinkles. I'll go back to it. You need to give it the full year to get things through, and then decide next year if we're going to keep this concept, but to abandon it 5 months in, or to modify it 5 months in. It really isn't giving it time. And if it happens to be department heads that haven't got their timing together to know where our workshops are, that's incumbent upon them to know this. So if they know that something has to be acted on this date, and they know that we have a workshop this certain date, that's what they're getting paid for, to take care of
Yeah,
that.
and
And that
that's
seems
true.
to be what they say, poor planning on your part does not constitute a crisis on my part. And part of it is incumbent upon the department heads to know these dates when they're coming up prior to, and know where our schedule is, because there's a lot of counties that do one of their meetings a month as a workshop, and they do not do county business because all the other issues that come with it, like XL Energy or something, it'll take 2 hours by itself just to get your hands around that thing. And like last week with the SEDS, the 7, those can't be done at a board meeting because you're
No.
not going to be able to ask the questions.
Right.
And the idea was just try to get us more in depth, because things are getting fired at us really fast and furious, and we need a full understanding before we start diving in. Otherwise, we're going to make the mistakes of the past where you just shoot from the hip and do
Well,
things.
and I've been fully supportive of having workshops from the beginning, because there are these big issues that we need long discussions on. I think they've been very valuable. since we started these. I really do.
So I'm going to ask that Mr. Kelly put this as an workshop agenda item for December.
Cut his pay?
What?
Did you just cut his pay?
Yeah.
Tell him Commissioner Kelly.
Oh, Commissioner, Administrator Kelly to put it on his workshop list for December to talk about board meeting schedules for 2020 at that time.
Did you want a motion?
I don't know, do we need to even make a motion? Probably just, he just can put it on as
It was
an
just
item.
discussion.
I'll make a motion that Administrator Kelly put this as a discussion item on our December workshop.
Well, did we approve the workshop minutes?
We didn't, we already did that already.
Did we?
Did we vote it? I thought
Yep.
we did.
All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Hewsome,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Dahleden. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We'll just talk about that in December. All right.
Perfect.
Contract for medical examiner services. Did you get a chance to
Yep.
look it over? Any questions?
Just speak to it briefly. We were contacted by Anoka County. They have a review process that they follow on the timing. Wanted to get an updated signed contract with us. We have used their medical examiner office for many, many years. Feel it's been a great service for the cost it has been to the county, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract for medical examiner service with Anoka County.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dahleden, a second by Commissioner Potter for the contract with Anoka County for medical examiner services. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Burrell?
Administrator Kelly, so this is $328,000 a year? Am I reading that right?
That is correct, yes.
Those doctors are quite expensive.
Well, I don't know. That just seems like we could hire our own doctor for that and contract.
Oh, no, by the time you pay for the lab and everything, and then for the actual, the analysis by lab
Tests
techs.
and all
Oh,
that.
man. We would be in probably $1 million in a heartbeat.
It just
Yeah,
seems
it's
really high.
it's just not a doctor that we have to deal with.
It's all the equipment.
It's all the, what they have, then you have their aides, and then they have their lab techs, and
Yeah.
What is, no, that's fine, but what is their, do they contract with other counties too?
Many counties in the state, yes.
So,
And they have their
I guess my
investigators that
point
go out to the scenes,
is, how
and
much are they putting into it, you know?
they have their death investigators that go
They
out
have
to
multiple
scenes
doctors
and-
at Anoka
yeah.
County.
I don't have the numbers, though. I would like to see, you know, like,
The overall budget for the
yeah,
medical
kind of
examiners?
like, this county puts in 328,000, the other county
Well,
puts in
for-
this.
Would you
and
like a
Anoka
tour
puts
of it,
in
Charlie?
nothing, And Anoka puts in nothing. I don't know.
No, it says it's $2 and some cents
It's based off of population.
Yeah.
population. But
And every county puts that amount
Same
in?
amount in.
Based on,
Based
okay.
on-
$2.46.
It's expensive. Go, Brian has
Mr.
some-
Chair, Commissioner Burrell, I was just going to comment that there's, Tom's been forwarding copies of the final autopsy reports on most deaths to myself and Brian Lutz as heads of the, civil and criminal areas of our office. And of course, we've all talked about the opioid problem. We've seen a number of those types of deaths. And I've noticed that a lot of the reports are signed by individuals other than Quinn Strobel, who's the medical examiner. So they do have a number of people on staff. And in addition to just the autopsies on cases like that, any questionable deaths, they also have to sign off on before there are cremations. So they do at least a cursory investigation, if you will, a small investigation of the cause of death, that type of thing. There's also things like testimony at court hearings that is included in this contract. So it ends up, it looks like a big number, but in terms of the professionalism and the services that we get, I think it's something that we need. I'm old enough that I go back to the days when, trying to remember his name, it was a doctor from Annandale who was county coroner.
County coroner.
And would show up and say, yep, that person's dead. And then sign the death certificate, and that was about it. You know, it's really changed over the years.
And Mr. Chair, I guess my concern is, this isn't like a joint powers thing where we have this formula. I guess we're just kind of at the mercy or whatever, the whim of Anoka County to pay whatever they,
Well, it's not, it's a Midwest medical examiner, so,
Just housed in Anoka.
yeah.
okay, so it is then
Well,
a joint powers thing then?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Burrell, no, it isn't. It's, I'm not sure exactly how they've, how they've formatted things in terms of using that name, Midwest Medical Examiner, but the employees are actually Anoka County employees, and so the nice part, and I looked through this contract, and I know Tim Dahl reviewed it as well, is that Anoka County indemnifies and holds us harmless. They're providing the services, we're paying for the service, so we don't have any worries of that type, but I would agree with you, we don't have representation on a board like we do with the crime lab.
Well, I'll just change it around. Let's say we had a whole bunch of snow plows in Wright County, and we do the snow plowing for 5 counties around us, and we just send them a bill. We could have them pay for everything and get our snow plowing done for free. You know what I mean? How do we know that's not happening? That's my...
Commissioner Burrell, they're assuming risk because you're paying a certain dollar amount based on your population. You could have
But who came up with the number?
500 people
Right.
go to that lab, or you could have one. And if there's 500 in there, they're assuming all the risk. Yes, the rate the next year may change for us if we ended up putting.
Right.
Who comes up with the rate?
They do.
Who did? Anoka County.
Well, yeah, it's based
So
on
if
their
we were
cost.
doing the snow plowing thing, I would come up with a rate, so many dollars a mile.
Well, you could do that as a commissioner. You could say, you know what, then let's spend $5 million and open up our own
I don't know.
medical exam lab. But I mean, I can tell you, I don't think I want to get into the business of doing a crime lab or.
Chair?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Burrell, keep in mind that this agreement predates all of us on this board, and as you as well as I know how much of a fiscal hawk Commissioner Swatsky was on things. If there was something wrong with this, he would never have been agreeing to this all the years through, and I gotta believe that he was part of those people approving how this formula was coming out.
Well, and there's not that many, I mean, there's not that many choices for us, because I don't even think Hennepin County is
We-
even offering the service to contract with them. So it's not even like this is a thing that you can shop around a lot. There's
Sounds
not a lot
like
of.
we could have the doctor from Annandale do it.
Mr. Chair, my recollection is that Dakota, is it Dakota, and there's a number of counties down in that area that use a different service, but it is limited, in terms of really good medical examiner services. I don't know that Hennepin County, I don't know if they have contracts like this. They will do kind of bit and piece work for outstate counties, but I think they charge an arm and a leg for that, so.
Right, yeah.
Mr. Chair?
oh.
Yes.
You know, Charlie, one of the ways we can find out exactly what it's cost is to look at Anoka
budget.
County's budget.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Because it'll break it out there for medical examiner.
And that's, I just want to make sure that it is being fair, that we're not having the other counties that do business with Anoka County subsidizing their operations. Yeah, I think it should get looked at.
Oh, what's fair is fair, yeah.
That's my only point.
I mean, but you'd have to say that they do assume a certain amount of risk. So you may see that they might only be paying $2 per population versus $2.40, because there has to be a benefit for them being the host county. I mean, because if you're going to be an owner of a business and you're going to make the same amount of money as every employee, why would you assume the risk? Why not just be the employee? You know?
But anyway,
And Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We used to contract apparently with Hennepin County. They did our autopsies a number of years ago. I don't know when they switched from Hennepin County to the Midwest, but I'm sure that there was a good reason why they switched.
But is it, I don't know. This is just a strange situation, because if I'm entering into a contract with somebody, I would go and I would negotiate it, and I would say, well, how much profit do you need, whatever. That's fine if they make a little bit to cover their risk, Mr. Chair, but we're not even looking at it, and I don't think we're part of the contract. We're just saying, here's your bill, and that kind of bothers me.
Well, I mean, I agree with that statement, absolutely. I mean, I absolutely agree with that statement. I mean, I just want you to say they don't go look at their budget and go, oh my gosh, they're getting it for 40 cents less. Well, obviously,
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. nothing we can do about it.
I'm not defending that, but,
I just think it's something maybe we should look into in the future.
I mean, it'd be nicer if there was more,
Yeah,
I mean,
Mr. Chair.
competitive bids. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe we could have Mr. Asselson get the beginning of that contract when we first entered in this agreement and forward that to Commissioner Burrell so he knows when we started doing this. When we started contracting with Anoka County through Dr. Strobel, because I know it predates all of us on this board.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Potter, I'd maybe ask the administrator's office to look at that. I don't know if we have a good record-keeping system as to this contract.
What? Okay.
Got caught up in Minlars.
That's the concern. I mean,
No,
it's
that's-
not,
and
it's
it's
not
a-
like it's $50,000. I mean, we're talking $328,000.
That's a farm
That's
tractor.
where it makes, that's what is great. I love the fact that you're questioning where the money's going and that we are paying the right amount of money for it, and that's what we should be doing.
Okay, thank you.
Next is to, oh no, we got to vote on that, sorry. We had a motion and a second on that? Sorry.
Yes, you did.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? All right. Contract is approved. Cancel the July 30th county board meeting, as we wouldn't have a quorum anyways.
I'll make a motion to cancel
Second.
July 30th.
Motion by Commissioner Dahlheit and second by Commissioner Potter. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We are canceling the July 30th meeting. Advisory updates. I'm going to start with Mr. Administrator Kelly.
Okay. Just a couple quick things going around the county. We had our Law Day on the 10th of May, which was very well attended again this year at the courthouse. I believe the sheriff's office is also doing an open house on June 7th, so something to look at coming up there. We have Oracle on site for 4 days over the next 2 weeks to have work towards developing scope with the ERP system, so that'll be committing a lot of staff time coming up. Kind of a fun item that we were made aware last night, and Alan pulled up on the cameras. We had a bear that traveled between our highway building and the construction site.
Bear, this far
Actual
south?
bear.
Wow,
I had a bear down at our place too.
really?
They're out
Thought
there.
that was interesting. So,
All right. Anything else? Commissioner Potter?
Mr. Chair, just got library board tonight, and the proposed budget shows a 1.12% increase, which is all to do with range movement and all that with negotiated things, so nothing earth-shattering there. This Thursday will be I-94 meeting in Rogers, and it'll be nothing earth-shattering there because the legislature really did a lights-on bill as far as transportation goes anyway. That's all I have.
Commissioner Dahlin?
Last week, Monday, Parks meeting was canceled because we did not have a quorum. We have one member of the commission that hasn't showed up in a while, and we're going to have to do something about that.
What district is that?
We'll talk about it later, Charlie.
Okay.
You want to guess which commissioner? Which commission?
No, there's too many.
And then on Tuesday night, I had a Wright County Community Action meeting. Did a number of different things there. They're kind of picking up the slack with the volunteer drivers that we quit doing at Health and Human Services. And they're trying to improve that, so anybody wanting to volunteer as a driver for helping out the elderly strictly, they can contact Wright County Community Action for that. On Thursday, and then the 14th, we had a mental health task force meeting, discussions again regarding suicide prevention and information that's trying to get out there for everybody. It's still unfortunately that it's happening. I know that somebody in St. Michael lost their child who was in college. It's a terrible thing, and it's mental health task force is trying to get it so that it's not taboo to talk about. It's a discussion. It's nothing, you should not feel bad if you have this stuff. You should get the help. It's out there. So there's some posters available for that. And then as you heard earlier, I was down at that open house with MnDOT with Hanover. Hanover has a major issue with 94. They're very concerned on what it's going to do to their residents. And like I told them there, I said, yeah, it's going to suck for a couple of years, but the benefit is going to outweigh the issues we're going to have, although I keep forgetting that we're going to have that same issue when they do the section between Albertville and Monticello. So it'll come again to bite us. And then I was at Bertram Lake on Thursday evening for an open house for Friends of Bertram, and it was very interesting. Really, a lot of people there. This actually served a pretty good meal, and a lot of different things that they showed. The concept plan for the
Campground?
No, well, yeah, the campground
field?
and the sports field.
The video? Did they show the video?
Yeah, they showed the video and all that sort of stuff. So if anybody's interested in that sort of stuff, it is out on Monticello's website. It's really neat, and again, it's not something that's going to happen tomorrow. There's construction going out there now at the pond, and 2 multi-purpose fields that are going to be raised and irrigated. For Premier Fields. So.
Maybe we
should
could
get Miss Mattias.
do that at the workshop, bring that video to the workshop.
That 3D, it's a 3D rendering, kind of like a cartoon of what the whole thing would look like. I said, Mattias should have had that with the campground. Wouldn't that be cool with it? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we want to pay for it, though.
I don't think we either. I don't know what the city paid for that, but.
I don't either. Well, it's probably with their contract, but I think it was WSB that did it. But, yeah, it's really neat. I mean, the whole concept, and in what time frame this, my guess is I won't be alive to see the finals out there. But it's such I took my wife out there, with the YMCA camp in the middle and the pool and the slide and the climbing walls, and then the sports fields that are going to be out there, and the campgrounds, and there's a passive area that it's like going up to Boundary Waters, except you don't have those big rocks out in the middle.
I was not as long a drive.
And definitely
I
not a
was
long
just
drive,
thinking,
it's
but
quiet.
maybe if you quit smoking.
What?
Maybe if you quit
This is a
smoking.
public health
What?
announcement.
Okay, well,
Come on, it's the only bad habit I got left. Come on, guys, leave me alone.
Besides us, huh?
Yeah.
so then I guess the last couple of weeks I've had conversations between county staff and the city of Buffalo and Trailblazer, kind of working out details on building facilities and the ownership of the city of Buffalo, and trying to figure out at some point and how it would look like if at some point we would have some transfer of that ownership from the city of Buffalo to the county, and making it cost neutral for all members involved, so that nobody's going backwards in that process. So it's ongoing at this point. Also had discussions with the city of Monticello and regarding the transfer jurisdictions in Fenning Avenue that'll be coming up here in the year to 2, and the road work that'll be taking place with that. Also had discussions and some clarification with Monticello Township on the Briarwood Avenue in our meeting that took place. I wanted to make sure that there's some clarity as to what we were planning on, or really no formal decision was made, but we wanted to have the discussion of when the timelines of what our expectations were going forward. Other than that, it's nice to see that our legislative session might actually end here.
What about that news yesterday?
Oh, yes, good call. Xcel Energy did put their press release that they are, the extension, they're going to propose to the Public Utilities Commission and all the governing bodies that they're going to go for a 2010 extension.
2040.
Well, 2040, but they're going to go for a 10-year.
You said 2010.
Well, it's a 20-year, they're gonna ask for 20 years with a 10-year guarantee.
Oh.
So that basically, they're gonna put it out there and hopefully they'll at least give them one of the two, hopefully both, but.
And the other part of that shoe is,
It's, Sureco is going to see themselves shut down about 4 or 5 years earlier than they were. That's part of the proposal as well. So the Unit 3 out in Becker will be shutting down 4 or 5 years earlier in 2030 than what it was originally proposed in the kind of, I'm going to say exchange. They didn't use that word, in exchange for the trying to get the 10-year extended, 10-year possible 20 on the Monticello nuclear plant.
I wonder how long that's going to take for them to make that decision.
that's, you know, because like I discussed earlier, with only one nuclear plant in the whole United States got an extension past 60 years, and that the odds were against this one, but this one's in pretty good shape, and newer one of the bunch.
They put a lot of money into
This
it,
isn't
you know, in the
really
last
60
10 years,
years
so.
Yes.
Yep.
2030, it'll be 6 years old.
60 years old in
Yeah.
2030?
Yep,
Yep.
1970.
2030, it'll be 60 years old.
60.
60.
60.
60.
Can't be. If it was built in 1970?
And 30 and 30 makes 60.
Here, you want
20
to
and
use,
30.
you want to use my
It's
digital?
50.
Oh, 2030.
You want to use my digital computer? Help you out here.
We're gonna start using your
I'm
fingers.
trying to think, 70, no, that doesn't make sense. How can that be? I didn't realize you're going out to 2030.
Yeah.
2030, yeah. Today,
I thought,
Because they're going 10 years to 2040s.
yeah, I got you. I was just
and that's
confused.
70.
As long as we didn't have to start using your fingers. you know.
the odds are steep on that, but the benefit is, since they want clean energy, and nuclear is clean energy,
It's clean, it's cheap.
I mean, there you go.
Well, this is one of the only main ways they're gonna get to carbon-free by 2050, and that's their goal at the Xcel Energy.
The benefit to us is if that goes an extra 10 years to 24, that just makes our budgeting process look even better.
It
Yep.
does. Yes,
Helps
definitely.
immensely.
Well, the other thing is, you need something that's going to take the demand. Because you can't do it with
and solar's not gonna
power.
cut it.
No, with wind and solar.
Yep.
So yeah, that was good news. Thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you, Potter.
So I met with the EMS group on last Wednesday, and this is EMS week. We signed that proclamation, so I was happy to share that with them. There's been a group that's been working, because what happens with patients who are mentally ill, essentially, and to bring them to the emergency rooms, sometimes they don't have enough beds, so the hospitals go on what's called divert, that they can't bring them into that hospital. And there was a problem sometimes when both Monticello and Buffalo would be on divert. So they've made the arrangements that if one is on divert, the other one will not be. So they're trying to accommodate that. And also, we do have that critical incident team that goes out in the EMS region, and they'll send out a team for certain incidents to help the responders deal with it. So there was some discussion about just having a local group, essentially, that if there's a critical incident and the responders, emergency responders, are having a little hard time dealing with it, that they can actually have somebody that works right here. So that was just brought up as a discussion point, and that they'll be exploring. Met with our Safe Harbor group on Friday, and with the different entities that are involved in this, is the victim advocates, the navigator, the regional navigator, child protection, public health, law enforcement, healthcare, and also prosecution. So we kind of discussed, they all have different protocols that they've been working on, and also talking about a multidisciplinary team, the Safe Harbor Sexually Exploited Youth team, that will be established to provide support and collaboration to professionals working in Wright County with the survivors of human trafficking and sexually exploited youth. So that's some of the things that we've been working on, and kind of
A slow week for you then.
Yeah.
I'm good.
You're good?
When's the county fair, Charlie?
July,
End of July.
Is it early?
No,
again this year?
it's not that early
It's
this
the
year.
24th through the 28th.
July 24th to the 28th.
Are you doing, I hear you're doing the fighting contest.
No, that's, Sheriff Derringer is gonna take over that from
Okay.
Joe Haggerty. He's gonna go for the championship.
Oh,
That's what I,
He's gonna eat-
he's a strong competitor.
He's gonna eat pie with his white uniform on, just get the full visual then.
Have you done that, Charlie?
I've never done it, no. But I think I would be good at it.
Yeah.
They're afraid to have you, is that what you're saying?
And we do have all kinds of celebrations going on Memorial Day, so if you get to
Oh,
the different,
yeah, come
Yep.
to Waverly for sure.
You putting on that new
See
uniform?
Charlie in his new
Yep,
uniform?
I'm gonna have a new one.
He has a new one.
Slightly bigger.
He's giving up the dieting to try and fit in.
the dieting was getting old.
With that, I guess we'll adjourn here at 10:35.